oil crisis with a huge spike, or will we just have this ameliorate, which it got to $75 at one of my objectives here? And there's no one better to talk about what's happening, not just in energy all the time, but also what's happening in the Middle East. Anas Al-Haji is with us. I know, Anas, your reputation precedes you here. We've talked
Thank you.
here quite a few times, and you know what I think you are? You're an energy detective because
Well,
you dig into everything, every detail, and can always show a counterpoint to what is being fed to the investment communities. You always really check your sources, and I could come up with something, and you'll give me a counter argument to it. So you do excellent work.
thank you.
I trust your content because I know how diligent you are in filtering through all the crazy narratives out there. Okay,
Thank you.
so in an insane world, you're a breath of fresh air. So let's
Thank
start
you.
off. Let's start off with. I do have to say that on our last couple interviews, I got quite a bit of pushback from you when I said that I believed there would be an attack on Iran. You did not think that would happen. You thought time would just pass and they would most likely just end up with a nuke. Did things change the few days before that you saw it coming? And can you acknowledge that just you know, a trader, and a host can call an event like that months in advance?
Well, we have to make a distinction here because we were talking about the U.S. attacking Iran. We
Okay,
were not talking about Israel attacking Iran. The idea of Israel attacking Iran, it happened several times in the past. So the talk
okay,
was about the U.S. attacking Iran. The U.S. officially has not attacked Iran yet,
okay.
because there are some rumors that there'd be some operations there. But the U.S. has not attacked Iran yet, and the talk was about the U.S., not Israel.
Okay. I mean, I saw it as one. I guess you could pick it apart. The bottom line is they got attacked, and that was one of the reasons why it was constructive oil. It could have been the Germans that did it, and we probably would have had the same result. So let's move on. Now that this is an ongoing conflict, there are a couple of things that probably people don't know. You mentioned that there are already nations suffering from this, and surprisingly, they're in the Middle East. So you talk about Egypt, Jordan, and Iraq having problems because they rely on Iranian natural gas imports. Is that the correct narrative on that?
Basically, the story like this: everyone is obsessed with oil, 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 because Iran is an oil exporter, and at the same time, they talk about the Hormuz Strait, where a large amount of oil go through, and people forgotten that most of the impact really was in natural gas, not in oil. So we have two different areas here. Israel decided to close its largest gas field to protect it. So its gas exports to Egypt and Jordan was cut off. Kind of, it really shocked them and surprised them because the cutoff was sudden, and now they are suffering from gas shortages and power shortages. At
Okay.
the same time, Iran gas exports to Iraq declined substantially and might stop completely, and Iraq is already suffering. As you recall, just recently we talked about
Electricity
Iraq and
demand.
yes, so we talked
Right.
about Iraq using more oil than ever in power plants, and now the issue that people do not pay attention to is that uh, Egypt is using diesel now to burn in power plants, but the problem is they have only a few days left of inventories, and that's it. And until shipments come from other countries, it will take more than 10 days to get it to Egypt. So they
So
will
already,
suffer.
yeah, so already a lot of collateral effects
Correct. And the
from
other
this.
one is Jordan is using fuel oil, and Jordan imports the fuel oil from by tankers on the roads through the western desert of Iraq. And the problem is because Iran cut off or at least reduced exports of natural gas to Iraq, and Trump administration did not allow Iraq to import electricity from Iran. Now Iraq wants to use its own fuel oil instead of exporting it to Jordan.
I see.
So, so the problem basically is becoming really more complex because of it. So the bottom line here is we already have suffering from shortages of natural gas in those three countries.
Okay. And you keep pounding the table. When are they going to get it that they need liquefied natural gas? Um, and
Absolutely.
how would that resolve it if they were
Okay.
using
For
liquefied instead of nat gas?
Egypt already rented three floating storage and regasification units. They are looking for, I think they are going to import the fourth one too to be able to handle this. Jordan basically is looking for one. They already had one, but they give it up to Egypt on the condition that Egypt will send some of the gas via pipeline. And then Iraq is going to install a new one, not new one, but they are going to install floating regasification unit at the end of the year. So everyone is going for LNG.
Okay. And I'll remind the audience that ANASA's been bullish, constructive on LNG for I don't know how long, for years actually. That was a part of the market that the energy detective came up with that was already moving before this event in oil. So, okay, now you say that Iran has threatened to do something in the Strait of Hormuz. I don't know how many times and never has done it. So with that recency bias, it's your belief there won't be that apocalyptic Strait of Hormuz blockage during this
Yeah, let
conflict.
me explain this because I think the audience they are misled by the media and social media here. There was a comment by a person, Iranian person, yesterday saying that by 1 p.m., which already passed, by the way, Iran time, by 1 p.m., where ships passing the Hormuz Strait will require permission from Iran.
Okay.
First of all, this guy does not hold any position at all anywhere in Iran. None. Zero.
See what I mean? A lot of people would think, oh, this guy's an Iranian official.
Correct. He was
Mr.
he was
Yeah,
for in the past he was a minister, but that's it. But he does not hold any position in the current regime right now. That's number one. Number two, ships pass through the Hormuz Strait in the Omani waters. So if
okay,
they go through Omani waters, how Iran is going to give them permission and what?
okay,
So that's the second one. And the reason why, because the Hormuz Strait is split between Oman and Iran. And the water is shallow on the Iranian part
I see.
and deep on the Omani part. So ships basically go through the Omani part, so they don't need permission. And if you look at the international law, no one needs any permission from anyone. But there is some vagueness here because relatively because the distance between Iran and Oman in the strait is kind of relatively small. So the national waters and the international waters overlap.
Okay.
And that
So they
creates
can
a
always
problem.
claim, you were in our waters.
Yes, but the international law basically precedes this. So still the international waters basically have the law of the sea basically is more powerful than the rights of those guys. But the problem is, and this is kind of really important. Iran has to declare war on the United States to be able to ban some U.S. vessels from going through. But they have legally to declare war. And Iran will never declare war on the United States. But even if they declare war, the international law says they can ban only military vessels, not commercial vessels.
So in times of in war, do these rules really carry weight in, desperate times, desperate people, desperate measures? Does that play
Well,
into it at all?
we got to be careful here because we are talking about banning. But in case of war, we might end up with destruction. All you got to do just attack from the land, and you cause problems. You don't need. So the issue here is just about banning the ships. But in terms of attacks and causing problems, that's a completely different story. That everything is possible on that side.
Okay. All right.
But Iran, people have to understand this. And I'm going to give you some numbers here, some percentages. 83% of the oil that leaves the Gulf goes to Asia.
Okay.
Literally to Iran friends, China and India.
Right.
87% of the LNG that leaves the Gulf goes to Asia. Very little oil, if any, goes to the United States from Hormuz Strait. So if Iran wants to behave in one way or the other or cause problems, its friends will suffer. The US will not suffer. Israel will not suffer.
China will suffer.
China will suffer, and therefore their friends will suffer. The other thing is, all their oil, the seaborne oil exports, basically, or most of it, go through the Hormuz Strait. So basically, they will choke themselves first. But there is a bigger story than that. 80% of Iran's imports come through the Gulf, through the Hormuz Strait. Many of the stuff they eat on a daily basis comes through the strait.
Okay. Yeah, it's not just
And
oil.
all the technology and everything, the medication, everything they get, basically they get it. So if they do something, they literally choke themselves first and then their friends. And the US and Europe will be watching. On the other side, they will lose, as you know, right now, the Arab countries on the other side of the Gulf are supporting Iran. They will lose them. They will lose their support.
Okay.
So
Would you
it's
say
not
would you say Saudi Arabia is supporting them?
big time. I mean, not
Okay.
militarily, but in terms of, you look at the Saudi
Moral
statements,
moral support.
moral support. They said the Israeli attack basically under international law and all that stuff basically is just not justified.
Okay.
And they are standing with Iran. All of them, basically, all the Gulf states are standing with Iran on this. And if you look at it from various ways,
So much for the
basically,
Abraham Accords, huh?
correct, but you got to look at it from another point of view because this is a very important point, and probably this is why Trump will not attack, or at least publicly or officially will not attack. The Saudis and their neighbors understand that they stuck with Iran forever, while the United States could be there just for a few years and leave.
Right.
So they look at it and say, if you go and cause problems, those guys will bother me for the rest of my life while you leave second day and just leave me alone.
Right. They leave the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay. You also bring up another narrative that a lot of pundits talk about if Israel decided to hit Karg Island, which is the oil producing major portion of Iran's oil production is Karg Island, and you actually have a graph that shows that it wouldn't have that much impact. So can you explain to our audience
Yes.
how if Israel takes out a major oil producing area in Iran that it won't have impact?
Okay. It is really the export terminal. So it's a major exporting terminal. The production basically is on land.
Okay.
And for those who are wondering if you are looking at the Gulf, It is really in the northeast part of the Gulf. There is an island there called Karg Island. And Karg Island basically has 10 berths. So it has like almost 10 places basically where the ships can moor and load. And some people were saying that if Israel hits this terminal, then we are going to lose a lot of oil. And what they don't know is the following. First of all, the island basically been hit so many times in the past and
Yeah.
continue to export oil. And the minimum amount was 1.5 million barrels a day. So Iran exports 1.7. So in a sense, it's still the same. But Iran, with the cooperation with China to avoid sanctions, they created a large number of ports in both Iran and China to evade sanctions. So if something happened, and assuming that the Kharj Island is completely destroyed, which I don't believe it happened because we've seen it bombed so many times and it's still exporting, even if they lose it, let's say Israel or the US come and occupy it, okay, they can still export from other terminals. And then not too long ago, they built a pipeline from the north all the way to the south to bypass the Hormuz Strait to Jask port. There is a 1,000 kilometer pipeline. They can literally to transport the oil through it and take it to Jask, which bypass the Kharj Island. In that area, Israel basically cannot reach that area. Only the United States can reach it, but the Israel cannot reach that area at all. So they have other options if Kharj Island is hit really hard. However, we have to remember the following, that during the first attack by Israel on Iran just a couple of months ago, Trump warned Netanyahu and told him not to hit the oil fields nor
Right.
the oil terminals. Trump does not want high oil prices. So that's why we did not see any attacks on exports. And here I would like to clarify one point, that when we talk about oil facilities, we have to distinguish between what is for domestic use and what is for exports. Israel been hitting the ones for domestic use,
Okay.
not the exports one.
Okay. Just trying to choke them off at home. So, we've been at it. This has been going on for what, 6 days now. What do you see as a couple of potential end games, if there are end games, or does this just turn into a war of attrition that could go on for a long time between uh, you know Air Force
I
attacks and missile launches?
President Trump did a big mistake by focusing on the point of zero enrichment,
Right.
unlike the previous administrations.
I heard that at
And
first they offered 3.6%, and that was the deal that they were going on, and then they moved the goalpost to zero.
correct, correct.
Right?
So
Okay.
that's what Netanyahu wanted. If they stayed at the higher rate, we would have already had a deal. But this zero idea, basically, I mean, look, even the Saudis now negotiating with the United States and telling them, look, I need to enrich uranium. And this is one of even the Saudis are asking for it. So the idea of zero enrichment basically is really the main issue. So if Trump retreat on that, probably we'll have a deal very soon, and that will solve all the problems. The issue is, if this is going to continue for a while, the Israel is going to literally run out of ammunition and parts and everything else, and they need the support of the United States. So the U.S. will be indirectly involved no matter what. Although,
Yeah.
of course, most of the things they use are made in the United States and they are U.S. made. The same thing for Iran. The problem is we don't know what China and Russia and others basically are supplying Iran with. We know what the US is supplying the Israelis with, but we don't know how the other countries are playing it, because common sense would tell you this is a great opportunity for Russia and to kind of avenge the US involvement in Ukraine. and for China basically to avenge the trade wars and everything else. So the idea that those guys are going to stay idle does not make sense.
And North Korea and us.
And North
They,
Korea is always on the fringes, so it's very hard to see
but
what they can do.
they assisted with nuclear technology
Yes, but in
transfers
terms
to.
of war, I don't think
Oh,
they can do much.
okay, they have a nuke. So the decisiveness of what Russia, it seems to me Russia and China are more committed, and really, for the most part, at this point, Israel is alone. I think Israel's going to end up alone in this. Um, uh,
I don't think so. I think I don't know. I'm going to make a statement. Probably Trump wants to see Netanyahu with a black eye. We will see how this is going to develop. The problem is President Trump made some statements that make people suffer for nothing. For example, when he said that he wanted the people of Tehran, which has multi-million people, to leave, he
to
caused
evacuate.
chaos at yes.
Yeah,
So at 3 a.m. in the morning, he caused chaos and a lot of suffering for the people. I mean, the regime is not going to be affected at all by it, but the people suffered. And there is no sense of telling people of multi-million people to
yeah,
leave town. This is because this gives the impression that the U.S. is going to bomb Tehran with a nuclear bomb, and that
yeah.
scared the hell out of people. So he caused chaos for nothing, and I think that that statement was uncalled for.
Well, I guess maybe we shouldn't be surprised that his statements cause chaos. Anyway, I'd like to, maybe wrap it with you to talk about you had a guy that you retweeted his oil chart. I went to your stream yesterday and he had a 120 target for oil. Do you recall retweeting that one? The
The one
guy,
I criticized?
he was Arabic. Oh, you criticized. Okay. I thought you
Yeah.
were, thinking maybe that could happen. All right. I
No,
missed,
I criticized him basically.
yeah,
There is there is no reason at all for prices to reach 100 or 120. Simply for, I already stated some of the reasons. China's oil inventories are at the highest ever. And we know from the last 10 years that they will be using them. And then we have the group of eight in OPEC Plus are going to increase production. There is a lot of spare capacity in those countries. And then I can assure you that at a price of 90, Trump will do exactly what Biden did.
the
He
SPR
will
release.
draw, yes, he will release oil from the
But did
SPR.
they ever fill it up again? I mean, I never heard
They
about,
did. They did add about 55 million barrels
yeah,
to it. Probably he will use 60 million, which means that he will go back to point zero where Biden was. And this will be the irony because everyone was criticizing Biden will be cheering Trump for doing exactly the same
yeah,
thing. But the whole idea here is we do have several levers to use to prevent prices from reaching that level. At the same time, global economic growth remains weak, oil
yeah.
demand growth remains weak, and the situation is completely different from 2022. At the same time, as you know, that shale oil production is not growing like before. If
Rig
we go
counts
to
keep
80 and
dropping. Rig counts keep dropping.
yes, but remember that we do have this major wave of mergers and acquisitions, and we are still seeing the impact of the integration of those companies. So the layoffs and some of the decline in the rig count is the result of that integration, not really the result of lower prices. But the idea here is if we are going to get 80 to $90 for several months, look, we can bring oil online in 2 months from shale,
Yeah.
and we can bring 400,000 barrels a day easily in 2 3 months if you give me those prices for let's say 4, 5,
Well,
6
that would
months.
incentivize the guys that aren't drill baby drilling to go out there and do it, right?
Correct. Correct.
All right. You know what? I see the in 30 minutes, I've had ideas shifted by the energy detective, Anas El Haji,
Thank you.
that sees through
Thank you.
all my, baloney and, I gullibleness on from sources. Anas, great to have you here. Do you think that 90% of this move is over in oil, or you think there's still maybe 50-50 we could get to 90
We still
and then
need to
kick?
see. I mean, for me, it's still very hard for me to see the U.S. involved in this war. But there is a case to be made that the U.S. will not give Israel those big bombs to bomb where the nuclear facilities are underground. So probably the U.S. will do it. We don't know. But as long as the U.S. is not involved, then that's it. But if the U.S. is going to get involved, then people will start worrying about the Iran reaction to it, and that's where the impact on oil will be.
Great conversation, my trading warrior brother.
Thank you.
Follow Anas on X at his name and go check out his website, anaselhaji.com. If you have an
Yeah, it's
organization,
unfortunate it has not been updated in a long time, but those who are
yeah,
looking for speaking engagements,
yeah,
the application is there. But that website needs to be updated. But the Twitter account is really up to the minute.
yeah. I mean, if you're having conferences, and really, this is going to be a major topic for a long time, despite what's happening, whether it's resolved or not. We're in an energy crisis. We were in one before this attack, and we'll be in one after the attack. And plus, he's fun to listen to. So it's not
Thank you.
just information, it's being compelling and entertaining
Yes, if
in
you
a
hold on just a
combination.
second, I think there is, we haven't talked about let me see where we are because the inventory report I think came out and I did not pay attention to it. So let's see what's going on here. Uh, yes,
W,
we have
Go
a major decrease in oil inventories, 11.5 million barrels, which is
okay.
a major decrease. This should support prices, but again, the politics is taking over.
Yeah, because actually it didn't rally on what was bullish news. We're down a buck 46 on WTI. Actually,
Yes.
natural gas is shaping up pretty good too. That maybe this is the sleeper. Um, anyway, for next time, Anas.
All
Thank you
right.
again. Thank you very much, Anas. I appreciate you
Have a good
edifying
day.
that. Inshallah.
Inshallah. Bye.
Adios. Bye bye.